Good evening and welcome to this news program called VS, or as we like to call it, Versus. This is Tuesday night, September 10th, 2024, and I am your host, Jason Icanio. On this program, we're going to take two different things and contrast them. It could be anything. What it won't be is anything religious or anything political for that matter. Topics that you would never think would have any kind of contrasting elements to them. You'll get the history of each one of them in each of our half hour of the hour program. At the end of the program, when we conclude, in your comments, you will vote on which one you like better based on just the history of the product or specific topics that we're talking about tonight. So sit back, relax for an hour, because this is going to be a show that not only educates, inspires, enriches, but it also gives you a lot of great historical background on products you never thought, or for that matter, people you never thought had a long history. Let's take it now with our opening song, or our opening for tonight's program. Here we go. Enjoy. And welcome to this first edition of the program called VS, or Versus. And I am Jason Icanio, your genial host and moderator for this edition. And we welcome you here. Here I am. And tonight on our program, we have two interesting things we're going to contrast. And I hope that you will enjoy it very much. First, the history of Coke in the first half hour. And then, to counteract it, the history of Pepsi. That's right. It's Coke versus Pepsi tonight on our program, and we think you will enjoy this very much indeed. When we come back, we will look at the history of Coke versus Pepsi. The history of Coke is first. We'll be back with the program right after this.
How can I ever forget one of my special customers, little Michael? Every week he'd come in, and every time he'd say, his eyes shining.
Stork reason, please, Mrs. Lang.
One of those reasons I had to give him immediately. The others I put in a bag for him. Now there is Stork Chocolate Reason, a long-lasting, chewy chocolate caramel covered with rich chocolate, just right for Michael.
Stork Chocolate Reason, please, Mrs. Lang.
And Michael still eats the first one immediately. Stork Chocolate Reason, the everlasting chocolate chew.
GE 2500. It can do almost everything but talk.
GE, we bring good things to life.
This is Polaroid's new Time Zero One-Step.
Pretty. Why is it black?
So you'll know it's the Time Zero One-Step. And here's the world's fastest developing color. You see it in seconds now, not minutes.
Look at that color. But why a Time Zero One-Step?
It comes with a pack of Time Zero Supercolor film in this made-for-each-other pack.
Certainly are made for each other.
Just like coffee and cream.
Rolls and Royce.
Or me and you.
Try ham and cheese.
sure it's good for you, but...
Great for dieting, but...
Plenty of healthy vitamin C, but...
But the taste? Well, pour on the pink for a taste you never expected. Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. Zesty, tangy, sweeter.
This is grapefruit juice? It's not bitter.
Hey, pour on the pink. Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. It's not just good for you, it's good. Ocean Spray good.
My friend Al's having a big party to watch the big game. So I'm setting him up with some KFC Super Buckets. For just $9.99 each, he's getting 15-piece buckets, jumbo buckets of 36 hot wings, and variety buckets with 3 kinds of tasty chicken. I said, how are you going to carry all these? Oh, maybe that's why I'm invited.
The KFC Super Buckets, just $9.99. Get them in Lake Edna or your neck of the woods.
All right, welcome back to Versus, and we hope you enjoyed the opening sequences here and the commercials that go with it. And now it's time to pair off the 2 most commonly drank sodas in the United States of America, Coke and Pepsi, or as they like to call it, Coca-Cola for that matter. We look at the history of Coca-Cola right now, starting with the Confederate Colonel John Pemberton, wounded in the American Civil War and addicted to morphine, also had a medical degree and began a quest to find a substitute for the problematic drug. Now, in 1885, at Pemberton's Eagle Drug and Chemical House, his drugstore in Columbus, Georgia, he registered Pemberton's French wine Coca Nerve Tonic. Pemberton's tonic may have been inspired by the formidable success of Vin Mariani, who was a French Corsican coca wine, but his recipe additionally included the African cola nut, the beverage's source of caffeine. A Spanish drink called Cola Coca was presented at a contest in Philadelphia in 1885, a year before the official birth of Coca-Cola. The rights for this Spanish drink were bought by Coca-Cola in 1953. Then in 1886, when Atlanta and Fulton County passed prohibition legislation, Pemberton responded by developing Coca-Cola, a non-alcoholic version of Pemberton's French wine Coca. It was marked as Coca-Cola, the temperance drink, which appealed to many people as the temperance movement enjoyed wide support during this time. The first sales were at Jacob's Pharmacy in Atlanta, Georgia on May 8th of 1886, where it initially sold for 5 cents a glass. Now, drugstore soda fountains were popular in the United States at the time due to the belief that carbonated water was good for the health, and Pemberton's new drink was marketed and sold as a patented medicine. Pemberton claiming it a cure for many diseases, including morphine addiction, indigestion, nerve disorders, headaches, and impotence. Pemberton ran the first advertisement for the beverage on May 29th of the same year in the Atlanta Journal. By 1888, 3 versions of Coca-Cola sold by 3 separate businesses were on the market. A co-partnership had been formed on January 14th of 1888 between Pemberton and 4 Atlanta businessmen, J.C. Mayfield, A.O. Murphy, C.A. Mullahay, and E.H. Bloodworth. Not codified by any signed document, a verbal statement given by Asa Candler years later asserted under testimony that he had acquired a stake in Pemberton's company as early as 1887. John Pemberton declared that the name Coca-Cola belonged to his son, Charlie, but the other 2 manufacturers could continue to use the formula. Charlie Pemberton's record of control over the Coca-Cola name was the underlying factor that allowed for him to participate as a major shareholder in the March 1888 Coca-Cola Company Incorporation, filing made in his father's place. Charlie's exclusive control over the Coca-Cola name became a continual thorn in Asa Candler's side. Candler's oldest son, Charles Howard Candler, authored a book in 1950 published by Emory University. In this definitive biography about his father, Candler specifically states, on April 14th of 1888, the young druggist Asa Griggs Candler purchased a 1/3 interest in the formula of an almost completely unknown proprietary proprietary elixir known as Coca-Cola. The deal was actually between John Pemberton's son Charlie and Walker, Candler and Company, with John Pemberton acting as co-signer for his son. For $50 down and $500 in 30 days, Walker, Candler and Company obtained all of the one-third interest in the Coca-Cola Company that Charlie held, all while Charlie still held on to the name. After the April 14th deal, on April 17th of 1888, one half of the Walker Dozier interest shares were acquired by Candler for an additional $750. Now, after Candler had gained a better foothold on Coca-Cola in April of 1888, he nevertheless was forced to sell the beverage he produced with the recipe he had under the names Yum Yum and Coke, with a K-O-K-E, by the way. This was while Charlie Pemberton was selling the elixir. Although a cruder mixture under the name Coca-Cola, all with his father's blessing. After both names failed to catch on for Candler, by the middle of 1888, the Atlanta pharmacist was quite anxious to establish a firmer legal claim to Coca-Cola, and he hoped he could force his two competitors, Walker and Dozier, completely out of business as well. John Pemberton died suddenly on August 16th of 1888. Asa Candler then decided to move swiftly forward to attain full control of the entire Coca-Cola operation. Charlie Pemberton, an alcoholic and opium addict, unnerved Asa Candler more than anyone else. Well, Candler is said to have quickly maneuvered to purchase the exclusive rights to the name Coca-Cola from Pemberton's son Charlie immediately after he learned of Dr. Pemberton's death. One of several stories states that Candler approached Charlie's mother at John Pemberton's funeral and offered her $300 in cash for the rights to the name. In Charles Howard Candler's 1950 book about his father, he stated, on August 30th, 1888, he, Asa Candler, became the sole proprietor of Coca-Cola, a fact which stated on letterheads, invoice blanks, and advertising copy. With this action, on August 30th of 1888, Candler's sole control became technically all true. Candler had negotiated with Margaret Dozier and her brother Woolfolk Walker. Woolfolk Walker, what a name. A full payment of amounting to $1,000, which all agreed Candler could pay off with a series of notes over a specified time span. By May 1st of 1889, Candler was now claiming full ownership of the Coca-Cola beverage, with a total investment outlay by Candler for the drink enterprise over the years amounting to $2,300. In 1914, Margaret Dozier, a co-owner of the original Coca-Cola Company in 1888, came forward to claim that her signature on the 1888 Coca-Cola Company bill of sale had been forged. Subsequent analysis of other similar transfer documents had also indicated John Pemberton's signature had most likely been forged as well, which some accounts claim was precipitated by his son Charlie. Now, in 1892, Candler set out to incorporate a second company, the Coca-Cola Company, the current corporation. And when Candler had the earliest records of the Coca-Cola Company destroyed in 1910, the action was claimed to have been made during a move to new corporation offices around this time. June 23rd, 1894, Charlie Pemberton was found unconscious with a stick of opium by his side. 10 days later, Charlie died at Atlanta's Grady Hospital at the age of 40. September 12, 1919, Coca-Cola Company was purchased by a group of investors led by Ernest Woodruff's Trust Company for $25 million and reincorporated under Delaware General Corporation Law. The company publicly offered 500,000 shares of the company for $40 a share. In 1923, his son Robert W. Woodruff was elected president of the company, and Woodruff expanded the company and brought Coca-Cola to the rest of the world. Coca-Cola began distributing bottles as six-packs, encouraging customers to purchase the beverage for their home. During its first several decades, Coca-Cola officially wanted to be known by its full name despite being commonly known as Coke. This was due to company fears that the term Coke would eventually become a generic trademark, which to an extent became true in the southern United States, where Coke is used even for non-Coca-Cola products. The company also didn't want to confuse its drink with the similarly named coal byproduct that clearly wasn't safe to consume. Eventually, out for fears that another company may claim the trademark for Coke, Coca-Cola finally embraced it and officially endorsed the name Coke in 1941. Coke eventually became a registered trademark of the Coca-Cola Company in 1945. Then in 86, the Coca-Cola Company merged with two of their bottling operators owned by JTO Corporation and BCI Holding Corporation to form Coca-Cola Enterprises, Inc. Then in December of 91, Coca-Cola Enterprises merged with the Johnston Coca-Cola Bottling Company. The first bottling company of Coca-Cola occurred in Vicksburg, Mississippi at the Beidenharn Candy Company on March 12th of 1894. The proprietor of the bottling works was Joseph A. Beidenharn. The original bottles were Hutchinson bottles, very different from the much later hobble skirt design of 1950, now so familiar. A few years later, two entrepreneurs from Chattanooga, Tennessee, named Benjamin F. Thomas and Joseph B. Whitehead, proposed the idea of bottling and were so persuasive that Chandler signed a contract giving them control of the procedure for only $1. Chandler later realized that he had made a grave mistake. Chandler never collected his dollar, but in 1899, Chattanooga became the site of the first Coca-Cola bottling company. Chandler remained very content just selling his company's syrup. The loosely termed contract proved to be problematic for the Coca-Cola Company for decades to come, and legal matters were not helped by the decision of the bottlers to subcontract to other companies, effectively becoming parent bottlers. This contract specified that bottles would be sold at 5 cents each and had no fixed duration, leading to the fixed price of Coca-Cola from 1886 to 1959. The first outdoor wall advertisement that promoted the Coca-Cola drink was painted in 1894 in Cartersville, Georgia. Now, cola syrup was sold as an over-the-counter dietary supplement for upset stomach. By the time of its 50th anniversary, the soft drink had reached the status of a national icon in the U.S. In 1935, it was certified kosher by Atlanta Rabbi Tobias Geffen. With the help of Harold Hirsch, Geffen was the first person outside the company to see the top secret ingredients list after Coke faced scrutiny from the American Jewish population regarding the drink's kosher status. Consequently, the company made minor changes in the sourcing of some ingredients so it could continue to be consumed by America's Jewish population, including during Passover. A yellow cap on a Coca-Cola drink indicates that it is kosher for Passover. The longest-running commercial Coca-Cola soda fountain anywhere was Atlanta's Fleeman's Pharmacy, which first opened its doors in 1914. Jack Fleeman took over the pharmacy from his father and ran it until 1995, closing it after 81 years. Then on July 12, 1944, the 1 billionth gallon of Coca-Cola syrup was manufactured by the Coca-Cola Company, and cans of Coke first appeared in 1955. Sugar prices spiked in the 70s because of Soviet demand, hoarding, and possible future contracts, market manipulation. The Soviet Union was the largest producer of sugar at the time, and in 1974, Coca-Cola switched over to high fructose corn syrup because of the elevated prices. Little did we know, come to find out later, that high fructose corn syrup is no good. And the only other place that actually, and here's a note for you, the only other country that actually makes a decent Coke made with real sugar is Mexico. So if you ever see Mexican Coca-Cola, drink it. It's actually the real thing. It's supposed to be real sugar in the mix. Try one and taste the difference, because you'll notice that the flavors are slightly altered. When you put real sugar in a soda, it actually tastes even better. Then on April 23rd of 1985, as you probably all know, and if you don't know, this is a first for some, Coca-Cola, amid much publicity, attempted to change the formula of the drink with New Coke. I remember that whole thing about it. Follow-up taste tests revealed most consumers preferred the taste of New Coke to both Old Coke and Pepsi. But Coca-Cola management was unprepared for the public's nostalgia for the old drink, leading to a backlash. The company gave in to protest and returned to the old formula under the name Coca-Cola Classic on July 10th, 1985. New Coke remained available and was renamed Coke 2 in 1992. It was discontinued finally in 2002. Well, on July 5th of 2005, it was revealed that Coca-Cola would resume operations in Iraq for the first time since the Arab League boycotted the company in 1968. In April of 2007 in Canada, the name Coca-Cola Classic was changed back to Coca-Cola. The word classic was removed because New Coke was no longer in production, eliminating the need to differentiate between the two. The formula remained unchanged. In January of 2009, Coca-Cola stopped printing the word classic on the labels of 16 U.S. fluid ounces bottles sold in parts of the southeastern United States. The change was part of a larger strategy to rejuvenate the product's image. The word classic was removed from all Coca-Cola products by 2011. In November of 2009, due to a dispute over wholesale prices of Coca-Cola products, Costco stopped restocking its shelves with Coke and Diet Coke for 2 months. A separate pouring rights deal in 2013 saw Coke products removed from Costco food courts in favor of Pepsi. Some Costco locations, such as the ones in Tucson, Arizona, additionally sell imported Coca-Cola from Mexico with cane sugar instead of corn syrup from separate distributors. Coca-Cola introduced the 7.5-ounce mini can in 2009. On September 22nd of 2011, the company announced price reductions, asking retailers to sell 8 packs for $2.99. That same day, Coca-Cola announced the 12.5-ounce bottle to sell for 89 cents. A 16-ounce bottle has sold well at 99 cents since being reintroduced, but the price was going up to $1.19. Then in 2012, Coca-Cola resumed business in Myanmar after 60 years of absence due to the U.S. imposed investment sanctions against the country. Coca-Cola's bottling plant is located in Yangon and is part of the company's 5-year plan and $200 million investment in Myanmar. Coca-Cola, with its partners, is to invest U.S. $5 billion in its operations in India by 2020. In February of 2021, as a plan to combat plastic waste, Coca-Cola said that it would start selling its sodas in bottles made from 100% recycled plastic material in the United States. And by 2030, planned to recycle 1 bottle or can for each one it sold. Coca-Cola started by selling 2,000 paper bottles to see if they held up due to the risk of safety and of changing the taste of the drink. Well, here's the list of ingredients. You got carbonated water, sugar, sucrose or high fructose corn syrup, depending on the country of origin. As I mentioned before, drink a Mexican Coke and see the difference, taste the difference. You'll notice that it's a little bit sweeter and it's more refreshing. Caffeine, phosphoric acid, caramel color, the usual stuff that you would see in a Coca-Cola. It's a trade secret, as you know, the formula of natural flavorings. They won't even tell you what it is. They probably have to kill you for it. There's also, when launched, Coca-Cola's 2 key ingredients were cocaine and caffeine. Yes, they actually thought cocaine was actually in the soda. So they thought people were getting high off of the cocaine. And it was derived from the coca leaf and the caffeine from the cola nut, leading to the name Coca-Cola, as you can tell. So there's a reason why when you drink Coca-Cola, there's a big history to it. Very big in caffeine. Probably one of our most popular drinks. Geographically, there's a lot of different Coca-Colas in different company and countries. They all taste slightly different. If you've ever been to Epcot, over there, they used to have the international Coke machines with the different flavors of each country and origin. And it really shows you what a difference real sugar makes in all of their sodas. They actually say that if you drink a Coca-Cola with real sugar, you actually don't gain weight. And your teeth won't rot. So they say. But again, you know the deal. Then, of course, they got Diet Coke, Coca-Cola Zero with zero sugar, Cherry Coke, all the flavors, and so on and so forth. But you knew that already. And the spokesperson for Coca-Cola was Bill Cosby. You know about the logo design. Has changed over the course of many, many, many years. And look at the shapes of the bottles. Even that was different for its time. Bottom line is something that will always be with us, no matter how old we are. Coca-Cola is here to stay. It's been around 100 years plus. The competitors, of course, is Pepsi, RC Cola, you know, even for that matter, Diet Right, Tab. A lot of people don't know about Tab, and we'll talk about it. Sodas that were pretty much taken off the market due to only a popularity of maybe that much. They had a lot of holiday campaigns. As you know, the polar bear is now the icon of the Coca-Cola company. You know, that polar bear that drinks the Coke and goes, yes. So when you see that polar bear, know that Coca-Cola is a big thing. In fact, Coca-Cola is pretty much on all kinds of stuff, from pictures of Coca-Cola to dishes, towels, Coca-Cola cups, mugs, kitchen equipment. In fact, they have a Coca-Cola store right here in Florida at Disney Springs. So if you're at Disney Springs, check out that 3-floor store of nothing but Coca-Cola and its product. Okay, we will be back, and when we do return, we will be taking a look at the competitor of Coca-Cola, which is, of course, Pepsi. And I have a comment here. Oh, let me see. Yep. And our buddy Emu says, I've heard of that. Going to Epcot before, I remember going to that, and it was sticky, mostly on the floor. That's very true. You're right, because they drink a lot of soda and they spill it. Well, definitely coming back. It is 9:27 here. Our first half hour is up, and we hope you enjoyed that look at Coca-Cola. We'll be back with Pepsi right after this.
Is this the reaction you get when you serve your kids vegetables? So how do you get them to eat their vegetables? Just add Cheese Whiz. Cheese Whiz. It's got the unique cheesy taste kids love, no matter what it's on. Cheese Whiz tastes great on anything and everything. Cheese Whiz. It makes food taste better to kids.
And now there's a new way for kids to enjoy the great taste of Cheese Whiz. New Cheese Whiz squeezable cheese sauce.
I've always been a pizza snob. Frozen pizza? Never. And then I discovered Stouffer's. It's terrific. You know why? They don't use pizza crust. Stouffer's uses good French bread because French bread really stays crisp and delicious, even frozen. And then Stouffer's heaps on the best pizza makings. I'm still a pizza snob. The only frozen pizza I'll eat is Stouffer's.
There really is a good frozen pizza. Stouffer's.
If I'm feeling mellow, I just want cheese and tomatoes. If I'm feeling attractive, I say put on some pepperoni, you know? If I'm feeling wild and crazy, I just tell the guy behind the counter, throw it all on. My.
Hello, I'm here to tell you a little bit about pizza etiquette. Can you do this? Yes, it's acceptable. It's good cold in the morning for breakfast. I've done that. I think how many have done that? Can you take it and go from the other end, crust first? No, I'm sorry. You have to start at the point.
Say, that's a well-balanced breakfast. Want to make it taste extra delicious?
Yeah!
Well, everything tastes yummy with Golden Blossom honey. Everything tastes yummy with Golden Blossom honey.
Yeah!
Cereal, toast, and pancakes. Honey makes them yummy. Muffins, waffles, pastry too. Breakfast goes with honey. Everything tastes yummy with Golden Blossom honey.
Gee, you really know your honey.
Love that Golden Blossom.
McDonald's new McDLT. It could be the best tasting lettuce and tomato hamburger ever. You get a hot side hot. You get a cool side cool. New McDLT. And the hot stays and the cool stays. New McDLT. It's a good time for the great taste of McDonald's. New McDLT. Come on in and try McDonald's new McDLT for the everyday low price of just $1.49. We think you'll agree McDLT could be the best hamburger value ever.
Well, enjoy your new soda.
Thanks.
Hello, Joan. A Serta. Does this mean you won't count us anymore?
One, come up here. Come on. Feel that comfort.
Never.
I'd like to try.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, guys. Hey, well, hold it. Hey, stop it. No, this is unprofessional.
I forgot to get ye.
Happy now, mattress man?
Serta, we make the world's best mattress.
All right, it's time now to look at the history of Pepsi here on the second half hour of Versus. Hope you enjoyed that first half hour looking at Coca-Cola, the history. Now we turn our attention to Pepsi. Yes, the competitor of Coca-Cola, the blue can. Yes, Coca-Cola was in the red can with the white stripe. Now Pepsi and its history. Was first invented in 1893 as Brad's Drink by Caleb Bradham, who sold the drink at his drugstore in New Bern, North Carolina. It was renamed Pepsi Cola in 1898. Pepsi became it because it was advertised to relieve dyspepsia, indigestion, and cola referring to the cola flavor. Some have also suggested that Pepsi may have been a reference to the drink aiding digestion like the digestive enzyme pepsin, but pepsin itself was never used as an ingredient to Pepsi Cola. The original recipe also included sugar and vanilla. Bradham sought to create a fountain drink that was appealing and would aid in digestion and boost energy. In 1903, Bradham moved the bottling of Pepsi from his drugstore to a rented warehouse. And that year, Bradham sold 7,968 gallons of syrup. The next year, Pepsi was sold in 6-ounce bottles, and sales increased to 19,848 gallons. Then in 1909, automobile race pioneer Barney Oldfield was the first celebrity to endorse Pepsi, describing it as a bully drink, refreshing, invigorating, a fine bracer before a race. The advertising theme, delicious and healthful, was then used over the next 2 decades. In 1923, the Pepsi Cola Company entered bankruptcy, in large part due to financial losses incurred by speculating on the widely fluctuating sugar prices as a result of World War I. Assets were sold, and Roy C. McGargle, Megagel, or Megagrel, or I guess his name is, bought the Pepsi trademark. Megagrel was unsuccessful in efforts to find funding to revive the brand, and soon Pepsi Cola's assets were purchased by Charles Guth, the president of Loft Inc. Loft was a candy manufacturer with retail stores that contained soda fountains, and he sought to replace Coca-Cola at his store's fountains after the Coca-Cola Company refused to give him additional discounts on syrup. Guth then had Loft's chemists reformulate the Pepsi Cola syrup formula. On 3 occasions between 1922 and 1933, the Coca-Cola Company was offered the opportunity to purchase the Pepsi Company, which it declined on each occasion. During the Great Depression, Pepsi gained popularity following the introduction in 1934 of a 12-ounce bottle. Prior to that, Pepsi and Coca-Cola sold their drinks in 6.5-ounce servings for about a nickel a bottle, with a radio advertising campaign featuring the popular jingle Nickel Nickel, first recorded by the Toon Sisters in 1940. Pepsi encouraged price-conscious consumers to double the volume their nickels could purchase. The jingle is arranged in a way that loops, creating a never-ending tune. Pepsi Cola hits the spot, 12 full ounces, that's a lot. Twice as much for a nickel, too. Pepsi Cola is the drink for you. Coming at a time of economic crisis, the campaign succeeded in boosting Pepsi's status. From 1936 to 38, Pepsi Cola's profits doubled. Pepsi's success under Guth came while the Loft candy business was faltering. And since he had initially used Loft's finances and facilities to establish the new Pepsi success, the near-bankrupt Loft company sued Guth for possession of the Pepsi Cola company. A long legal battle, Guth versus Loft, then ensued, with the case reaching the Delaware Supreme Court and ultimately ending in a loss for Guth. Well, from the 30s through the late 50s, Pepsi Cola hits the spot was the most commonly used slogan in the days of old-time radio, classic motion pictures, and early days of television. Its jingle, conceived in the days when Pepsi cost only 5 cents, was used in many different forms with different lyrics. With the rise of radio, Pepsi Cola utilized the services of a young up-and-coming actress named Polly Bergen to promote products oftentimes, lending her singing talents to the classic Hits the Spot jingle. Film actress Joan Crawford, after marrying Pepsi Cola president Alfred N. Steele, became a spokesperson for Pepsi, appearing in commercials, television specials, and televised beauty pageants on behalf of the company. Crawford also had images of the soft drink placed prominently in several of her later films, and when Steele died in 1959, Crawford was appointed to the board of directors of Pepsi Cola, a position she held until 1973. And although she was not a board member of the larger Pepsi Cola created in 1965, Pepsi had been featured in several films, including Back to the Future Part 2, Home Alone, Wayne's World, Fight Club, World War Z, and in films directed by Spike Lee. Pepsi's marketing has also been marred in controversy. In 1989, Pepsi commissioned a $5 million marketing campaign to coincide with the release of Madonna's song Like a Prayer, but was canceled following strong backlash regarding the religious themes in the song's music video. In 1992, the Pepsi Number Fever marketing campaign in the Philippines accidentally distributed 800,000 winning bottle caps for a 1 million peso grand prize, leading to riots and the deaths of 5 people. In 1996, PepsiCo launched the highly successful Pepsi Stuff marketing strategy. Project Blue was launched in several international markets outside the United States in April. The launch included extravagant publicity stunts such as a Concorde airplane painted in blue colors, which was owned by Air France, and a banner on the Mir space station. The Project Blue design was first tested in the United States in June of 1997 and was released that December in preparation for Pepsi's 100th anniversary. It was at this point the logo began to be referred to as the Pepsi Globe. Then in October of 2008, Pepsi announced that it would redesign its logo and rebrand many of its products by early 2009. And then again in 2009, Pepsi, Diet Pepsi, Pepsi Max began using all lowercase fonts for name brands. The brand's blue and red globe trademark became a series of smiles, with the central white band initially arcing at different angles and depending on the product. In March of 2023, just last year, Pepsi unveiled a new logo expected to launch in North America in late 2023 and internationally this year. The logo is a modernization of the vintage Pepsi logo, accompanying branding elements, and will also shift from blue to black as their primary color. Walter Mack was named the new president of Pepsi Cola and guided the company through the 40s. Mack, who supported progressive causes, noticed that the company's strategy of using advertising for a general audience either ignored African Americans or used ethnic stereotypes in portraying blacks. But up until the 1940s, the full revenue potential of what was called the Negro market was largely ignored by white-owned manufacturers in the United States. Mack realized that black people were an untapped niche market and that Pepsi stood to gain market share by targeting its advertising directly towards them. To this end, he hired Hennon Smith, an advertising executive from the Negro newspaper Field, to lead an all-black sales team, which had to be cut due to the onset of World War II. In 1947, Walter Mack resumed his efforts, hiring Edward F. Boyd to lead a 12-man team. They came up with advertising portraying black Americans in a positive light, such as one with a smiling mother holding a six-pack of Pepsi while her son, a young Ron Brown, who grew up to be Secretary of Commerce, reaches up for one. Another ad campaign titled Leaders in Their Fields profiled 20 prominent African Americans, such as Nobel Peace Prize winner Ralph Bunche and photographer Gordon Parks. Boyd also led a cereal sales team composed entirely of blacks around the country to promote Pepsi. Racial segregation and Jim Crow laws were still in place throughout much of the U.S., and Boyd's team faced a great deal of discrimination as a result, from insults by Pepsi coworkers to threats from the Ku Klux Klan. On the other hand, it was able to use its anti-racism stance as a selling point, attacking Coke's reluctance to hire blacks and support by the chairman of the Coca-Cola Company for segregationist governor of Georgia, Herman Talmadge. As a result, well, Pepsi's market share as compared to Coca-Cola's shot up dramatically in the 50s, with African-American soft drink consumers 3 times more likely to purchase Pepsi over Coke. Well, after the sales team visited Chicago, Pepsi's share in the city overtook that of Coke for the first time. Journalist Stephanie Caparel interviewed 6 men who were on the team in the late 1940s. The team members had a grueling schedule, working 7 days a week, morning and night, for weeks on end. They visited bottlers, churches, ladies' groups, schools, college campuses, YMCAs, community centers, insurance conventions, teacher and doctor conferences, and various civic organizations. They got famous jazzmen such as Duke Ellington and Lionel Hampton to promote Pepsi from the stage. No group was too small or too large to target for a promotion. Pepsi advertisements avoided the stereotypical images common in the major media that depicted Aunt Jemimas and Uncle Ben's, whose role was to draw a smile from white consumers or customers. Instead, it portrayed black customers as self-confident middle-class citizens who showed very good taste in their soft drinks. They were economical too, as Pepsi bottles were twice the size. This focus on the market for black people caused some consternation within the company and among its affiliates. It did not want to seem focused on black customers for fear white customers would be pushed away. In a national meeting, Mac tried to assuage the 500 bottlers in attendance by pandering to them, saying, "We don't want it to become known as the end drink." After Mac left the company in 1950, support for the black sales team faded, and it was cut. Well, Boyd was replaced in 1952 by Harvey C. Russell Jr., who was notable for his marketing campaigns towards black youth in New Orleans. These campaigns, held at locales, attended largely by black children, would encourage children to collect Pepsi bottle caps, which they could then exchange for rewards. One example is Pepsi's 1954 Pepsi Day at the Beach event, where New Orleans children could ride rides at an amusement park in exchange for Pepsi bottle caps. Well, by the end of the event, 125,000 bottle caps had been collected, and according to the Pepsi Cola World, the New Orleans campaign was a success. Once people's supply of bottle caps ran out, the only way they can get more was to buy more Pepsi. Well, according to Consumer Reports in the 1970s, the rivalry continued to heat up the market. Pepsi conducted blind taste tests in stores in what was called the Pepsi Challenge. You've heard of those, and you've seen them on TV during the 70s and 80s. Go back on YouTube and look at those for those who've never even seen the Pepsi versus Coke Challenge. It's very interesting. These tests suggested that more consumers preferred the taste of Pepsi to Coca-Cola. The sales of Pepsi started to climb, and Pepsi kicked off the challenge across the nation. This became known as the Cola Wars, as in Billy Joel's song, "We Didn't Start the Fire." Rock and roll the Cola Wars. I can't take it anymore. In 1985, the Coca-Cola Company, amid much publicity, changed its formula. And the theory has been advanced that New Coke, as the reformulated drink came to be known, was invented specifically in response to the Pepsi Challenge. However, a consumer backlash led to Coca-Cola quickly reintroducing the original formula as Coca-Cola Classic. Well, in 1989, as I just mentioned, Billy Joel mentioned the rivalry between the two companies in the song "We Didn't Start the Fire." The line Rock and Roller Cola Wars refers to Pepsi and Coke's usage of various musicians in advertising campaigns. Coke used Paula Abdul, while Pepsi used Michael Jackson, and both companies then competed to get other musicians to advertise its beverages. According to Beverage Digest 2008 report on carbonated soft drinks, PepsiCo's U.S. market share is 30.8%, while the Coca-Cola Company's is 42.7%. Coca-Cola outsells Pepsi in most parts of the U.S., notable exceptions being Central Appalachia, Montana, North Dakota, and Utah. In the city of Buffalo, New York, Pepsi outsells Coca-Cola by a 2-to-1 margin. And as of 2024, Pepsi had fallen behind Coca-Cola and Dr. Pepper as the third most popular soft drink in the United States, losing its second-place spot to the aforementioned Dr. Pepper, a position it had held since 1985. Overall, Coca-Cola continues to outsell Pepsi in almost all areas of the world. However, exceptions include Oman, India, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, the Dominican Republic, Guatemala, the Canadian provinces of Quebec, Newfoundland, and Labrador, Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick. Pepsi had long been the drink of French Canadians, and it continues to hold its dominance by relying on local Quebecious celebrities, especially Claude Menor of the Petite Vie fame, to sell its product. I'll probably get a spell check and a correction from Mark Liotta because of that. Thank you, Mark. If you ever want to correct me on the name of these celebrities. But PepsiCo introduced the Quebec slogan, "Here, it's Pepsi," in response to Coca-Cola ads proclaiming around the world it's Coke. As of 2012, Pepsi is the third most popular carbonated drink in India, with a 15% market share behind Sprite and Thumbs Up. In comparison, Coca-Cola is the fourth most popular carbonated drink, occupying a mere 8.8% of the Indian market share. By most accounts, Coca-Cola was India's leading soft drink until 1977, when it left India because of the new foreign exchange laws, which mandated majority shareholding in companies to be held by Indian shareholders. The Coca-Cola Company was unwilling to dilute its stake in its Indian unit as required by the Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, thus sharing its formula with an entity in which it did not have majority shareholding. In 1988, PepsiCo gained entry to India by creating a joint venture with the Punjab government-owned Punjab Agro Industrial Corporation and Voltus India Limited. Now, this joint venture sold Lehar Pepsi until 1991, when the use of foreign brands was allowed. PepsiCo bought out its partners and ended the joint venture in 1994. And in 1993, the Coca-Cola Company, that is, returned to pursuance of India's liberalization policy. In Russia, Pepsi initially had a larger market share than Coke, but it was undercut once the Cold War ended. In 1972, PepsiCo struck a barter agreement with the then government of the Soviet Union, in which PepsiCo was granted exportation and Western marketing rights to Stolnaya vodka in exchange for importation and Soviet marketing of Pepsi. You know what they call Stoli. This exchange led to Pepsi being the first foreign product sanctioned for sale in the Soviet Union. Well, reminiscent of the way that Coca-Cola became a cultural icon and its global widespread of spawned words like Coca-Cola or Coca-Colonization, Pepsi-Cola and its relation to the Soviet system turned it into an icon. In the early 90s, the term Pepsi-Stroika began appearing as a pun on perestroika, the reform policy of the Soviet Union under Mikhail Gorbachev. Critics viewed the policy as an attempt to usher in Western products and deals that were with the old elites. Pepsi, as one of the first American products in the Soviet Union, became a symbol of that relationship and the Soviet policy. This was reflected in Russian author Viktor Pelvin's book, Generation P. Then in 1992, following the dissolution of the Soviet Union, Coca-Cola was introduced to the Russian market as it came to be associated with the new system, and Pepsi with the old. Coca-Cola rapidly captured a significant market share that might otherwise have required years to achieve. By July of 2005, Coca-Cola enjoyed a market share of 19.4%, followed by Pepsi with 13%. Pepsi was introduced in Romania in 1966 during the early liberalization policies of Nicolae Ceausescu, opening up a factory in Constantina in 1967. This was done as a barter agreement similar to the one of the USSR. However, Romanian wine would be sold in the United States instead. The product quickly became popular, especially among young people, but due to the austerity measures imposed in the 80s, the product became scarce and rare to find. Starting from 1991, PepsiCo entered the new Romanian market economy and still maintains a bigger popularity than its competitor, Coca-Cola, which was introduced in Romania in 1992. Despite heavy competition during the 90s, sometime between 2000 and 2005, Pepsi overtook Coca-Cola in sales in Romania. Pepsi did not sell soft drinks in Israel until 91. Many Israelis and some American Jewish organizations attributed Pepsi's previous reluctance to expand operations in Israel to fears of an Arab boycott. Pepsi, which has a large and lucrative business in the Arab world, denied that, saying that economic rather than political reasons kept it out of Israel. And there you have it. A look at Pepsi and all of the other things that Pepsi has gone with. As you can see, there's a lot of references to that drink. We've given you the versus look at Coke versus Pepsi. We'll be back and tell you how you can vote on your favorite soft drink right after these important messages.
How can I ever forget one of my special customers, little Michael? Every week he'd come in, and every time he'd say, his eyes shining.
Store reason, please, Mrs. Lang.
One of those reasons I had to give him immediately. The others I put in a bag for him. Now there is Stork Chocolate Reason, a long-lasting, chewy chocolate caramel covered with rich chocolate, just right for Michael.
Stork Chocolate Reason, please, Mrs. Lang.
And Michael still eats the first one immediately. Stork Chocolate Reason, the everlasting chocolate chew.
GE 2500. It can do almost everything but talk.
GE, we bring good things to life.
This is Polaroid's new Time Zero One Step.
Pretty. Why is it black?
So you'll know it's the Time Zero One Step. And here's the world's fastest developing color. You see it in seconds now, not minutes.
Look at that color. But why a Time Zero One Step?
It comes with a pack of Time Zero Supercolor film in this made-for-each-other pack.
Certainly are made for each other.
Just like coffee and cream.
Rolls and Royce.
Or me and you.
Try ham and cheese.
Made for each other.
Sure, it's good for you, but...
Great for dieting.
But...
Plenty of healthy vitamin C, but...
But the taste? Well, pour on the pink for a taste you never expected. Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. Zesty, tangy, sweeter.
This is grapefruit juice? It's not bitter.
Hey, pour on the pink. Ocean Spray Pink Grapefruit Juice Cocktail. It's not just good for you, it's good. Ocean Spray good.
My friend Al's having a big party to watch the big game. So I'm setting him up with some KFC Super Buckets. For just $9.99 each, he's getting 15-piece buckets, jumbo buckets of 36 hot wings, and variety buckets with 3 kinds of tasty chicken. I said, how are you going to carry all these? Oh, maybe that's why I'm invited.
The KFC Super Buckets, just $9.99. Get them in Lake Edna or your neck of the woods.
All right, welcome back to the end of our program here on Versus. I hope you enjoyed this premiere episode this Tuesday, September 10th, 2024. And here's how you can participate in this particular show. We just showed you the history of Coke, and we just showed you the history of Pepsi. So tomorrow, what I'm going to do in between the next show and, of course, which will be Thursday, I won't tell you what the topic will be. You'll just have to tune in to see what we're going to be talking about. But it's going to be an interesting topic. But the way you can participate in this particular program is by voting. I will put up a poll, and it'll be on YouTube and the Facebook group page. If you'd like to take part in it, please specify which of the 2 soft drinks you like better. Okay? And you can base it on taste. You can base it on color of product. So many factors in your decision. We'll tally up all those totals, and when we get a good enough sample, we'll come back with the results of that specific poll sometime later on in our season. In the meantime, thank you for enjoying this particular episode of VS, and we'll see you, of course, on Thursday with another look at 2 different 2 competitors or something of the sort, contrasting the history of both, and then you make the final decision. I'm Jason Icanio. Remember to be honest, to be real, and always keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Good night. We'll see you on Thursday. Till then, bye-bye.